Hey there, this is Val Talonheart with a Team Synergies video for Metacles, the monk for Has-Been Heroes. First, we're going to start off with the monk and the warrior. The monk's starting spell is Curse of Frost with a cooldown of 15 seconds. The next time the target is attacked after putting the curse on, it gets frozen for 7 seconds. The warrior has a hot potato with a cooldown for 30 seconds. It burns the target for 2 seconds and removes anywhere from 10 to 16 stamina. There's a lot of variety to this setup for basically your very first team as soon as you start the game. Your monk can cause freezing, which is never a bad thing. And your warrior can do his stamina busting with a hot potato and do a little bit of extra damage with the burn. The big problem is it's also the most basic team and it has a lot of poor elemental synergy. Hot potato can cause steam for slowdown by hitting the frozen target from the Curse of Frost, but the big issue here is that the hot potato stun, 99.9% of the time, make the steam meaningless. The target's going to be stunned and he's going to be sitting there in the steam, and because of that, the steam's going to dissipate before the stun's done on basically most targets. And as a result, you got the stun from the potato, you got the freeze, which is never bad, but there's no way to really put the abilities together very well in very interesting ways. But it's not a bad team. Every team's viable, but it's just that you can't really do interesting things from the get-go with this team. So if I had to give a grade to this team, I looked at everything, and the grade that I had to come up with for Metacles and Crux had to definitely be a C+. Next, we have Metacles with Florencio the Luchador. As usual, yep, Monk has a Curse of Frost. And then the Luchador has Thunderstrike. Thunderstrike is a lightning spell with a 40-second cooldown. The thing is, it's not a direct damage spell, but instead it's a buff that gives the next melee combo an extra 40 points of lightning damage, and the hit causes 20 stamina to be removed, so it's more than likely just going to stun the target no matter what. Also, when the Luchador casts it, he's going to refill his melee cooldown immediately. So that kind of gives a lot of priority to attacking. The pros to this team is that there is variety with the Monk's Freeze, and the Luchador can also stamina bust with the Thunderstrike. But the thing is, he can stamina bust for anybody. He can throw the Thunderstrike on anyone. Plus, even more interesting is that there's a possible ×2 damage synergy if a target thaws from the Curse of Frost and an attacker with Thunderstrike hits the target. The problem is with this setup, the biggest con is that the synergy is very inefficient, because in the heat of a moment, are you really just going to sit there and let a target that's frozen for 7 seconds thaw out and then waste a Thunderstrike just to get double damage? Basically, your Thunderstrike's not going to do 40 points of damage, it's going to do 80 points of damage. So it's really kind of pointless. It's not really a good synergy to play around with. And when you get into the later stages, synergies can be very, very important. And the synergy just doesn't work very well at all, especially early on in the game. It kind of really plays out as a handicap if you really want to play with that. Which, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, some people do like looking for a challenge, but honestly, it's kind of like suffering if you have a synergy that's just kind of pointless overall. So, if I were to give a rating to this party, I would say it's better than the original team with Metacles and Crux. But if I were to give it a final grade, it's definitely not much better. The final grade that I did end up giving this team would have to be, I'd say about a B-. The third team that we have is Metacles with Zockwis the Sheik. The monk, of course, has his Curse of Frost, but the Sheik also comes with his own ice spell. Unlike the monk's Curse of Frost, which is a freeze on touch as soon as you curse a target, the Sheik has a cooldown of 25 seconds with his icicle, does 45 to 50 points of damage, and it freezes for 5 seconds, which is really kind of a neat team because they have a heavy freezing focus. You have two ways to freeze. You have the way to freeze with melee, you have the way to freeze by range, and it really gives a lot of great crowd control. And the other thing is that this Curse of Frost really synergizes very well with Zockwis' passive ability. The one where you can actually backstab a target and you get an extra 50% more damage just for doing that. So basically, you can Curse of Frost a target, have Zockwis attack deep into a line, backstab through that line, trigger the Curse of Frost, freezing a target, and just say there was one target in front of him. Then you shoot your icicle, freeze the target in front of him, and that backstab is going to more than likely destroy the guy in front. Swap lanes, have Zockwis do another deep strike, backstab through, and then hit him again. And it's a very high damage dealing group. The biggest issue with this team is that it's a mono elemental team. It only has frost damage. So if you run into a lot of mobs early that are heavy on ice immunity, your spell options are going to be extremely limited, and you're going to have to focus on your melee. But I'd say it's definitely better than the other two teams below because of its damage potential. So I will have to give this team a B+. And then finally, we have Metacles with Rojo the Robot, the last character you unlock in the game. As expected, the first character with the monk has the Curse of Frost, and Rojo has a spell called Air Burst. It has a cooldown of 20 seconds, and it causes wind damage from anywhere from 40 to 60 points of damage, and causes a short knockback. The big pros of this team is that it has a lot of synergy. There is, in fact, 2 ways that Rojo's Airburst works with the Curse of Frost for Metacles. So, if the target's frozen with the Curse of Frost, you cast Airburst on the target, and it actually slides the target like a battering ram into another, as you will see in this very classy shot. And it causes minus 20 stamina to both targets, and it will just about stun almost anything in the game. So that is extremely awesome. Just say the target thaws from the Curse of Frost before you can do anything with Rojo's Airburst. That's totally fine too, because the target will be soaked, and as soon as you cast Air Burst on a soaked target, it actually refreezes them. So you have two ways to synergize with Metacles' Curse of Frost. Absolutely awesome. The only real problem with the team is that it requires some setup for the synergies to work well. That is a one major issue with the whole team, because you have to set up with the Curse of Frost first, and then you have to kind of consider what's the best way to use the Air Burst spell on the frozen or the thawed target. But overall, if I were to use Metacles, the monk, this is definitely the team I would go with, and I have to give it an A-. This is Val Talonheart, signing off.